Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai ऋकारस्तनिवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितन्यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अथाश्वलायनो भगवन्तं परमेष्ठिनम् उपपसमेत्युवाच अधीहि भगवो ब्रह्मविद्यां वरिष्ठां सदा सद्भिः सेव्यमानानां निगूढां यया चिरात् सर्वपापं विपोह्य परात् परं पुरुषं याति विद्वान् तस्मै सहोवाच पितामहश्च श्रद्धा भक्ति ध्यानयोगातवेहि न कर्मणा न प्रजया प्रधनेन त्यागेनैके अमृतत्वमानशुः परेण नाकन्निहितं गुहायां विभ्राजते यत्यतयो विशन्ति वेदान्तविज्ञानसनिश्चितार्था सन्न्यासयोगात् यतय शुद्धसत्त्वाः ते ब्रह्मलोकेषु परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ति सर्वे. So we are doing the the third verse. Na karmana na prajaya dhane na tyage naike amritatva manashuhu. So, pardon me. So it says that, just reading the sentence again, not by deeds, nor by progeny, nor by wealth, but by renunciation alone have some people attained immortality. The renunciates attain that which is higher than the heaven and which shines in the cave of the heart, the intellect. So, yat yatayo vishanti. So we saw that this verse is chanted usually when there is a sannyasi who is physically entering on an invitation or even otherwise somebody's house. And so that's the importance of chanting this verse. And the importance of this event of a sannyasi being invited to a home is an important one, because because the sannyasi is a very special person. It's a very unusual person. If you look at so in all religions, the monks are a very special person because of tyagena eke, renunciation alone. So this needs to be understood, why it is a special person and why is that important for us. So there, as we know that in this life there are two methods of gaining happiness. One is pravritti marga. One is the path of doing something, acquiring something, gaining some results, which is what most of us, all of us do really. So that is the pravritti marga. So you have to find out what is it that you need, you go get it, and then it leads to some more actions, because every need is limited, and once you fulfill it, that doesn't mean that you're done for whole life. You have to start all over again. So this is what the karma is all about. So this is the pravritti marga. So then there is also a nivritti marga. So nivritti means renunciation. And so this is what we are studying, and we should be studying exactly what the renunciation is, and why does that also provide a valid means for us to gain our happiness. Because really all of us have the same objective. Any being, any living being has exactly the same objective. And those objectives are very well articulated in Swami Viditatmananda's text on the page 68-69. And I think that if I simply read all of this and just go over this, this is really what I would like to do, is because it's the same ideas that we have had between Swamiji and his students and so on. And I think this book is useful in that perspective. So he has given a very good introduction to the whole subject matter. So what he has said here is, on page number 69, that the three methods, the three aspects of our life are precious to all of us. And so those pertain to Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Sat Chit Ananda. Either way you can look at it, it's one and the same. So of all of our living beings, even if you look at a bug or a more evolved being like a bird or any other animal, what you'll find is that from their behavior as well as the behavior of human beings, they're born as a living being, and we want to maintain our living being status. And nobody wants to be terminated. Nobody wants to be killed. Nobody wants to die. This is true of all the bugs, all human beings, and so on. The moment you approach them, they would sense whether there is someone threatening, and if it's going to really threaten them, they would revolt. I mean, this is where the killing of animals, especially the domestic animals like cows and so on, is really full of badness, because it should not be done. If some of the ways how cows are herded and killed, it is just a very sad thing to see. Nobody wants to really to be die. So this is one of the things. The existence itself is very precious to us. And in addition to that, mere existence is not desirable, but a awareful existence is desirable. And so, as Swami Viditatmananda has said, that supposing somebody was said that, okay, we will give you some medicine where you will never be able to see what you are and so on. You will be like in a state of you're just completely out of it. Nobody wants that. We want to know what's going on. We want to know who we are. That's what whole life is all about. And so in the animal kingdom, for example, it is not an option. At least in the human kingdom, there is an option. You can anesthetize somebody for a long time. But in the animal kingdom, you can anesthetize for a short time. And this is how they are caught. Sometimes when a lion or a tiger escapes, you can actually put a dart in the body to anesthetize them and bring them back. So that's all. The possibility exists. But left unto itself, all animals also are wanting to be awareful. And the third thing aspect of that is some happiness and some joy. And there also, in the case of the animal kingdom, it's very muted. Very muted. You don't have, there's happiness. It means that you just are resting. This is an interesting thing to see, that animals do not smile. They do not smile. They have expressions of satisfaction, like a dog will wag its tail. So some of it is muted. Now, all of these three aspects of that are fully displayed in a human being. In the animals, it is muted, but in the human beings, it is fully muted. So if you now come back to the human being, and by the way, one important thing to see, this is why it is the evolution of the jiva to a human being is so important. In all cases, so the first three, which is existence and knowledge and happiness, are common to all of us, everybody, including plants as well, plants, kingdom, animals, human beings. But only in the human being there is a possibility of unlimited happiness. Only there, not in the animal kingdom. And in fact, it is said in our Shastra that, really speaking, if the human being does not strive for total freedom, it is wasting a very precious life. Very precious life. And so it is very important that this very rare possibility, which is only given to the human mind, it's a mental activity, is not, if it is not utilized, then in that way all of us are pashus, means animals. We have some small difference between animals and human beings, but not a big difference. The main difference is that you utilize the mind of the human given to us to reach infinity. Very important thing to see. So we have to choose. So that's the other thing, is that even when one is evolves to a human being, we basically have the same general tendencies as animals, which is just living, being somewhat happy, and be protected, and so on. So this is all given in these four methods called the Purushartha. So it is the Artha, Kama and Dharma. This is what is given here. Na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena, na dhanena. By the way, the na is to be added to dhanena also. Na karmana, na prajaya doesn't mean dhanena. Dhanena also has to be added na, not by wealth. So all these three things, as Swami Viditatmananda has pointed out, pertain to the three aspects of Purushartha. So the three aspects are, first of all, is longevity. So we want to make sure that we live for a long time. Nobody wants to really go in our life. We want to maintain we hate to understand that we will be no longer at any one time. And as you know, many of us would like to at least get into pictures so that our memory can be maintained for a while. Sad to say, that doesn't really mean anything, but we do it. And so the quest for longevity is an important one. So this is number one. Then the second part is that nobody wants to be, as I think I'm repeating myself, I already said that, nobody wants to be in a coma. That's not acceptable. If you say, okay, well, one of our family members, they were 2 or 3 children that decided to keep their mother, who was ill in India, in a coma for quite a while. And if you were to have woken her up, the mother, and say, would you like to be in a coma? She says, no, let me go. Because that doesn't really mean anything to me. And so this is where the awareness of who I am and what am I doing, it's a very important part of life. I cannot just be in coma. Okay. Then the third one is, if you want to live, can you live without happiness? No. This is what happens because everybody says that it's very our instinct is to live forever. Then why are there suicides? Valid question, really. There are so many suicides. Hundreds every day. Every day you hear of the farmers are committing suicide because their crops were ruined because of lack of rain, and they are taking care of their families, and they felt not willing to live anymore. A lot of suicide. So the reason for that is that we do want to live, but we don't want to live in an unhappy state. So a person who commits suicide also feels dying is better than living in this state. So Maheshananji had given this example that there's a person, I don't know if it was contrived or a real, but could be either one of them, that there is a person who was rejected by his girlfriend because he wanted to marry her and she would not agree to that. So he said, if you don't agree to marry me, my life is over. I really loved you so much. There's nothing else I want to do. I want to commit suicide. He says, no, that's, don't commit suicide. He says, so he had a friend. So he went up the Qutub Minar. In the old days, Qutub Minar was a tall place in Delhi where you could actually jump to your death, just like the Golden Gate Bridge. And so a lot of people go up high and then they fall down to their death. So he started going up. So his friend called up his girlfriend and said, do you know he's really about to commit suicide and he's going up the Qutub Minar? She says, oh, I didn't know that. He really means it? No, I think I'll marry him. So he says, really? Can I tell him that? He says, yeah, sure, tell him. So he shouted to this guy and he says, hey, your girlfriend has agreed to marry you. Don't die. So he came down. He says, okay, very good. If that's the case, then I don't have to. So really speaking, we want to live, but we also want to live happily. So those are the three things. So those three things are talked about. So they say there are three possibilities in our life to maintain our happiness. So one is artha. So the artha is done through protection. Okay? And that is dhanena. So protection means that we have a place to live, we have a car, not only do we have insurance for our own life, but also the insurance for the car, insurance for the house, all the things that are important for us, if we also have to protect them. So this is what is done by dhanena. So the dhana is talking about the Purushartha, which is based on based on artha. Artha means all the things that are needed for protection. So this is one thing that we all do. Then the second one is once we have protection and artha, we want to have some fun. So prajaya means progeny. It is an upalakshana. Upalakshana means it's just a standing example for all fun. Of course, the having a progeny involves sexual pleasure. So that is also part of it. And then raising a child, dealing with them and having fun with them is also part of the pleasure. All of the other aspects of it, music and movies and traveling and so on. So there it is called artha kama. So kama means desires. Once we have protected ourselves, then we fulfill the desires. So that's that. Then karmana has to do with dharma. So artha kama dharma. So dharma means doing some work for my protection of the future, investment. So all of the Vedic methods of doing yajna, prayers, charitable work, all of that is called karma. And so those are the three methods that we have in our bailiwick, in our back pocket that we do. And so here it says that all three will not give you freedom from death. All three will not give you freedom from death. So, what will give you amritatvam? Amritatvam means freedom from time, timelessness, immortality. So all three will prolong mortality but give you some pleasant mortality. But if you want immortality, the method for that is tyaga, is renunciation. So this is what is pointed out. And why is the tyaga, and how is the tyaga? How is renunciation important for me? How does that, why is it superior to artha, kama and moksha? Why is it superior to na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena? Tyagena eke amritatvam anashuhu. This is what we have to understand very, very well in our life. And so as we saw in the first verse also, it is not easy to see the possibility. It is rare for us to see the possibility that I can escape death, then I can be immortal. It's not easy to see. Yeah, because most of the help that we see, most of the instructions we see, most of the association that we have is within mortality. It is to improve our status within mortality. Really everything, either Laukika or Vaidika, doesn't make any difference. Either just worldly experiences or some spiritual experience that you can also get. That you can, joining religious parties, having hopes to go to heaven, all of that has to do with mortality alone. Somehow, somewhere, we are introduced to the possibility of immortality. And the funny part is that either we never find out about it, not the funny, but just the fact about it, strange fact about it. Or even when we find out about it, I have difficulty believing it, difficulty understanding. Certainly have difficulty understanding it, but even believing it I have difficulty. Really? But the nature of this vidya is that once I do understand, and once the possibility of becoming, of possibility of gaining immortality becomes my goal, then my life changes. And the change of my life means I need to pursue it sincerely. I don't want to just do it casually. It is something that otherwise the goal of immortality remains a goal. It is not accomplished. So if I wanted to accomplish immortality, then I must understand how. And so this is what this verse is saying. Tyagena eke amritatvam anashuhu. He says the renunciate is, it is possible for, through renunciation, for the yatayaha amritatvam vindate. Amritatvam an. This is why an entry in of a renunciate in the house is a symbol of someone who has taken this very seriously, and there should be a thought in my mind that I can be like that as well. And in fact, somebody who is an enunciate is taken to this lifestyle as the main objective of their life. And renounce what? That is what is given is na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena. All three of them, all the three Purushartha, so Artha, Kama and Dharma have to be renounced. And while you are living, your value system has to change to a degree where they are not the primary objective of your life. But here, the one thing to be understood is that it doesn't mean that you don't allow what has become a pattern in your life and a flow of things in your life to terminate right away. It's not possible. But what it does happen is that we understand the difference between prarabdha karma and non-prarabdha karma. In other words, we must understand that we have things that have already started. I have gotten a body, and if I have gotten married, then I have some responsibilities in my household. If I have children, then that has already happened. I am responsible for them. If I need to earn money to keep the family going, keep myself going to a certain point, then I need to do that. That is all part of the prarabdha karma. But for me to now make that as my primary goal, where my entire life is based on maximizing my performance in those areas, is not necessary anymore. So I fulfill my duties. So this is what is called nimitta naimittika karma. I fulfill my duties as best as I can because it's a result of prarabdha karma. The prarabdha karma means that, so the word prarabdha karma means well begun. So there was a partnership between you as a person and Ishvara in your previous life to say, this is what I want to be. This is exactly what happens. You don't sign a paper or anything like this, but from your actions, from your desires, from the direction of your life, there is a joint determination between the karma and the karma phala that, okay, this is what you will be in this life. And really the detailed, quite a bit of detailed blueprint of this life is already begun. Your DNA, your health, your possibility, your mind, all of those things have been now well established. Certainly the choice of mother and father, society, you can change it to some degree, but it has a very heavy flow to it already. So, just by seeing that now I want to be immortal, you cannot stop all of that. That's going to go on. But the emphasis on it can change. And I was very lucky that in a certain stage of my life when I was exposed to this and I found out about the possibility of being immortal. So really I'm very indebted to Swami Chinmayananji who introduced me to this possibility in 1973 when I met him. And I must say that I give credit to myself that I saw that. I said, oh my goodness, this is something just extraordinary. But by that time, I could see that I have a job to do. I'm married. I had one child at that time. The second one came later. So I was well engaged in life and so on when this thing came up to me. And in looking back, I think what happened to me was that up until that time, I was really engaged in maximizing my career and my work with the friends and so on and so forth. That got changed because I reasoned to myself, and with the help of the acharyas that I studied, that I cannot give up. But what I can do is, instead of trying to become vice presidents of the company, which requires a lot of extra work, dedication, so on, I felt that if I could simply not only keep my job, but just do well, but come home at a normal time, and any extra time that I have, I put that into the study, not in doing work for the company and so on, then this will be the best of everything. So I really did not just give up on everything. So here the tyaga refers to not to the prarabdha karma, but a way of looking at life where all the things that I was doing for maximizing the performance of my life in this life had to be changed. So the prarabdha karma has to go on. So that means that all the duties, and you can say, well, what do you mean by prarabdha karma? Not that difficult to see. Whatever has been set into place, you have to continue while you distance yourself and while you disengage. That's the word I was looking for. You disengage from what is not necessary. And in the case of a renunciate, so the monk and the renunciate, yatayaha vishanti, is a very special person. It doesn't happen in this country very often, although people can live in a monastery and live there in the pursuit of God. That's wonderful. India, however, has a very special situation where the renunciate is protected and helped by the whole society. So they are given protection, they are given food by the society while they live a life of a renunciate. Beautiful thing. Just amazing. All you have to do is to go to very religious places and you find that there are people who are living with their singular focus on understanding immortality, and so most of them have renounced their families. They become, they're given the diksha for becoming Swami, and so they have a brand new identity, and so their brothers and sisters and so on, they are not primary in their lives. Even if they've had children, they have no longer responsibility for the child. They've taken a new identity, and yet the society protects them and gives them food, etc. So this way, the renunciate is a very important person. But the significance of the renunciation has to be understood. And that means the discovery that I am already what I want, but I am covering that understanding by some defect in my mind. And so here the example of cataract is a very beautiful one, very important example. So the cataract means you don't see something for sure. You don't see something. But that doesn't mean, you don't see something clearly. But that doesn't mean that your eyes are defective. It means that there is a covering which is preventing you from seeing. This is a great discovery. So what Vedanta points out is, you don't have to generate immortality. You have to remove the covering of mortality from yourself. That's all. That is a very doable thing. You cannot, if you were to create immortality, you can imagine creating infinity. You can't, nobody can create infinity. You are either already infinity and you don't know it, or it cannot be done. Fortunately, it's the former. So this is exactly what the significance of renunciation is. It is a understanding that, and the Shraddha becomes a very important part of this, because our mind actually continues to doubt it. Really? How can I be Immortal. I can't believe it. And every time you have a problem in life, your mind already proposes it and says, so you want to be immortal. You can't even deal with some simple things, and you want to be immortal. And so your mind's previous habits mocks you. It mocks you. And so here I think this is a very interesting thing, because in Vedanta, the first thing that needs to happen is that you must become stronger within yourself to even withstand the mocking of your own mind. This is what we are doing on the Tuesday night class on that verse number 4 of the second chapter of Kena Upanishad. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate. Atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vidyate amritam. The second line of the fourth verse is a beautiful one. Atmana vidyate viryam. So the word viryam has two meanings to it. One meaning is wisdom. Really, so viraha. So the word viraha has two meanings. One of it is called paradarshi. Paradarshi means one who looks far. Wisdom means that you are not just looking. You're looking at the. This is an interesting thing when you are teaching someone to drive. I have a granddaughter who is just turning 16 in a couple of weeks, and she's been driving. And when I taught driving to my kids, I told them the same thing as I was telling to my granddaughter, and I think her father, my son, also was telling her the same thing, which is when you're driving, don't just be focused on right things ahead of you. You take a broader view of the whole thing. Keep your focus on it. And including, example, who's driving beside you, or who is behind you, who is ahead of you, what are the traffic patterns. So keep that in mind as a whole in order to be a good driver. Very important. Because if you just say focus on the immediate thing, you may miss some important things that are going to create problems for you. This is what is one meaning of the word viryam. Atmana vindate viryam. Second meaning of viryam is strength. Strength meaning that you must have mental toughness to withstand doubts from your own mind. Doubts from your own mind as well as doubts from others. And really the more important one is doubts from your own mind. The others may propose something thinking they'll just bother you, but they're not that interested. They'll just go away on their own. But you have to live with your own mind forever. So if you have a mind which is constantly mocking you, you need to counteract with having a wisdom and a mind which says, shut up. I know what I'm doing. I may not be there right now, but I will get there. I don't want these kinds of things. So that kind of a viryam, that is a result of the shraddha that comes in. Because either you respect the wisdom provided by it or you don't. If you got introduced to the subject matter at the very beginning and you lack the shraddha meaning that you don't think there is something amazing going on, then that's fine. You go your way. Shastra is not willing to proselytize you. No, it's not proselytizing. It says, listen, there are some very interesting things going on. If you're interested, then please look into it. But once you see the wisdom of that, then resort to it. Because many of the doubts that we have about ourselves and so on and so forth is a result of my previous state of being, not the new state of being. I often, in the early stages, when there were some doubts in my mind, I would tell my mind, you're asking that question because you don't know what you're talking about. So you have to create a distance between your mind and yourself. Yeah, this is an interesting thing because in the Bhagavad Gita also, in other places, we have various equipment given to us for making progress in life. So, one of the things is what is called buddhi. So, you have equipment for you to inquire, to think, to doubt. That's fine, because thinking involves doubt removal, and that means the existence of doubt. So you have all of that. This is called Manaha. So the nature of Manaha. So there's the 4 kinds of Manaha. So the 4 kinds of Manaha are your memory, your ahankara, means that that's the main one where I am a jiva, this is the jiva, the ahankara. Then you have 2 others we'll call Manaha and Buddhi. So Manaha is the faculty, the instrument of thinking, doubting, etc., etc. Then you have a Buddhi. Buddhi is the one which is wisdom, clear thinking. That's also yours. So in Bhagavad Gita it says, Buddhim tu sarathi vidyat. That the driver of this in those days, simply the chariot, the sarathi is the one that should be managing the manaha. And in fact, this is a very important thing, that Arjuna, when he was given a choice of either having Krishna's army or Krishna himself, chose Krishna to be his sarathi. Beautiful symbology. Beautiful symbology. Arjuna chose the sarathi to be Krishna. And he says, if you guide me, I'm going to win. So similarly, the buddhi The wisdom that we have is a faculty that I have to invoke. So whenever you have a doubt of anything, you have to say, be quiet. I know what I'm doing. You don't have all the information, therefore you are doubting. You are the old style person where mortality was the big word. I know immortality is a possibility and I want you to listen to me. So this is what is meant by Atmana Vindate Viryam. Beautiful. Very nice explanation of that. And I mentioned briefly on that Tuesday night class also. So Atmana here means that your own, all the four things, the Chittam, Ahankara, Manaha, Buddhi, all four aspects of the mind have to work together. And then you can say, yes, I want to do this. And even though I have doubts for the time being, that's okay, it will go away because the promise is there. And it's not an agenda laden promise, it's the real promise and it will happen. So the significance of Tyaga, the renunciation, is that you have to see that I am immortal, but somehow I don't see it yet. What do I need to do to see it? And so, we talked about one of the aspects of understanding this is what's called the purity of our mind. So Buddha Shuddhi, Antakarna Shuddhi, the purity of our mind. This is what really is needed for me to remove some of the doubts about my immortality. Right? This is we all know that. We've been purity of the mind. What do you mean by purity of the mind? So here it is said, our acharyas have pointed out, that the purity of the mind consists of, this by the way is a huge topic. I think I can, one of these days I'm just going to hopefully give a cluster of classes just on this point itself. There's a lot of detail available and so on. Anyway, I'm just going to summarize that for you for now. So the Antakarana Shuddhi, the purity of the mind, the non-purity of the mind is well known to be what is called likes and dislikes, Raga Dvesha. Raga Dvesha is the sign for an impure mind. So, how do you mean that the Raga Dvesha is the sign of the impurity of the mind? And how does that hurt me? Okay? So they say that the impurity of the mind, if you were to analyze this, is the following. It is seeing the reality of things where there is no reality and not seeing the reality where there is reality. This is the impurity of the mind. And as a result of this impurity, you have likes and dislikes and rag and dukkha. So what it means is that I look upon things as very important in my life when they are not. I have given them a certain reality because of my lack of understanding, which is understandable. We shouldn't really just beat ourselves to it. The way I have dealt with in my life is that I find some things that are real and important, and I've felt that way and I've been disappointed. They have not really come through and they are a source of problems for me. So the impurity of the mind is, so there is the Atma, which is myself, which can never be sullied by problems. And then there is the Anatma, which by itself is not capable of hurting me except when I empower it. So the impurity of the mind consists of being realistic. Being unrealistic causes problems. And being realistic means that I don't allow the world to attain a sense of reality that it doesn't have. Conversely, I don't yet understand the reality of who I am. That I am in fact timeless, immortal. And I don't give enough thought to it, importance to it. I don't appreciate it. And the reason I don't appreciate it is because all my understanding about what is important has been given away to the world. So the Acharyas say this is the crux of the issue. And so when you talk about renunciation, tyaga, you don't have to renounce anything. You don't have to renounce the world, the relationships, the money, the house or anything. None of that is necessary. But what is necessary is for you to renounce the idea that these are crucial to your success. They're not. Again, the very classical example of having a script for a play versus understanding that I am different from the play. So it's not necessary for you to stop playing a role in life. Not necessary at all. In fact, you will spoil the agenda of the play, the script of the play if you do that. Then you will be you'll be reprimanded for that. You'll be accused of that. You've really spoiled the whole thing. See, that's a good way to look at it. If you just don't like the script and you stop playing the role in the movie or in the play, then you spoil the whole play. That's not the way to really make progress. Instead, the thing to do is to see, to renounce the reality of the play as real. It is a play. And you cannot renounce it until you're ready to look at yourself as something much more real than the role that you're playing. That's important. So this is what happened. This is what is the impurity of the mind. It's a defect caused by giving unnecessary reality to things that are not real. Very similar example to the electricity and some appliance. That the glowing of the bulb really is due to electricity, even though the glow seems to come from someplace else, but really it is empowered by the electricity. And talking of that, again going back to the example of the cataract. So there, suppose you have, so the cataract means that there is some covering going on that is preventing the light from coming. There's nothing wrong with the eye itself, it is working well, but some covering is protecting it. So the example given by Swami Paramarthananda, was a very nice example, was that suppose you had a little lamp in a room that you wanted to light up. And you went into some kind of a room where there was a bulb sitting there, and you switched on the light. And nothing happens. It is the room is still dark. So you say, that's funny. Is no electricity here? So you go to another room and you turn the light on, and yes, the electricity is there, so it's not like the whole power has been off. Then you find that the bulb also is pretty new. What you find is that somebody had put a towel on it, a black thick towel, which was preventing from the light to coming out. So then when you remove the towel, the electricity is also working, the bulb also is not defective, and the light now flows. With something like that, really speaking. So this is the meaning of renunciate. This is the significance of renunciation. That something is covering your immortality. And what is covering your immortality is a wrong way of looking at things. That's all. And that comes from the Antakarna Shuddhi, that you start by withdrawing the firmness of the world being real and my being non-existent to I being constantly there, and the world is simply reflecting my own. It's like understanding the freedom of electricity. It is unaffected by any problems in an appliance, and yet the appliance needs the electricity in order to glow. That is the significance of renunciation. So, So this is really the crux of this verse. So what I would urge you to do kindly is to then now read this verse number 3. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amritatvamanashuhu parena nakam nihitam guhayam vibrajate yat yatayo vishanti. So the one thing that I didn't spend any time on, really, I can do that very quickly in this verse. Other than that, it is not clear. Anyway, let me finish doing that. So please, if you can, before the next class, read this text of the verse number 3, which is from 68 through 76. So kindly go through that, and this will solidify what I have been talking about, because it is all the same thing. So anyway, the one thing that I didn't mention is parena nakam nihitam guhayam. So parena nakam nihitam guhayam means, nakam means heaven is called nakam. So heaven represents what can be achieved through action. So our Vedic knowledge gives you a possibility of reaching heaven through karma. Through the right karma, through truthful karma, through helpful karma to others and so on, and through leading a clean life without any bad feelings towards either yourself or to others. That kind of a clean life where you are acting sincerely. What you do follows your mind. What you think and what you act, what you say is all very consistent. All of that leads to heaven. But the issue with the heaven is, in our Shastras, is that it is a result of karma, and so therefore it is impermanent. Anything which is a result of karma, which began and ends, is not nityam. It is anityam. So we don't think that this permanent heaven or the permanent hell is realistic. This is not, it doesn't make any sense. And so it is always required that you look upon heaven as a desirable but temporary respite from your life. And so here, parena nakam means this is beyond that. So the heaven is a pleasant life. Parena heaven, parena nakam means your swarupa itself is ananda. You don't have to have pleasant experiences. You are the very essence of ananda, of pleasure, infinity. So this is what is meant by parena nakam. And yet it is hidden from you. Nihitam guhayam. So guha means a cave. And the essence of a cave is that it is naturally dark. unless it is lighted up by some methods. The cave means that there is a darkness, means that here the darkness means ignorance of the self. Even though it is very close, it seems very far. So this is how the non-recognition of something, when you don't recognize something, it is very close to you, but yet it is very far, as we saw in the last Tuesday night's class. And so this is what is called Nihitam Guhayam, means that in the darkness of your own understanding, it is there, but you just have to light it up, that's all. So that's the one thing that was there on this verse that I had not taken up. And I think that's pretty much done. So we will take up a new verse next time, but kindly revise it if you have. With that, I close the class today. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Ramanand Patel ji, you were saying how to deal with the lack of virya, in spite of prayer, understanding and shraddha, or am I just being patient? Let me understand this, how to deal with the lack of the word that is I'm still doubtful on, if you can give me some more, is the Viryama, Viryam. Is the same Viryam which is what I had talked about, Atmana Vindate Viryam. If that's the case, then I can answer it. If it is not the case, then you can kindly tell me if you meant something else. So, okay, good. So the thing is that it's not dealing with it or anything like that. It's just that I think it is very similar to what Virendra Singh was also asking last time about the aparoksha and paroksha and so on. And he was asking, what is your advice? And perhaps I didn't really explain that much time. I think that what I would say is that you would need to see yourself with the help of perhaps a teacher, if necessary, but do it yourself, as to what is it that you don't understand. You have to analyze it. And if you are, and also when you say prayer, so really do a prayer to Ishvara and saying, Ishvara, I have not reached the stage where I am happy with what I want to do. Can you please help me? help me identify what is it that I need to do. And if you do that with the prayer, then be honest with yourself as to what is it that you need to improve upon. Is it effort? Is it the study of the right basics? Is it thinking? Is it because I am not, the gap between what I understand, what I do is too big, and I need to. So, in other words, just think in your own mind, what are the things that I need to do? Why is it that I'm not getting it? And so, and I'm not saying you're not getting it, but not making as much progress that I think so. And so I think things will become clearer to you if you are sincere in really identifying the specifics of what you need to do. And I think that part of that would be your covering the basics very well. Because if something is not understandable, you have to drop down a level to more basic things, including, for example, understanding the nuances of the language. So maybe even understanding Sanskrit. So anyway, whatever you need to do in order for you to identify where is it that you are hung up. That's how one has to analyze. And all the time, just having faith in your own self, that you have come along a long way, you've done so much in your life to become, to have this wisdom, to continue doing it, and to strengthen it with your own conviction, with your own prayers. This is what, something like that, and that needs to be done. So, so Viryam, of course, the word Viryam itself has two parts to it. So one, it would be understanding, and the other one is the strength to live a life based on that understanding. So the strength and as well as the wisdom are the two parts of Viryam. And both have to be strengthened, and both have to be pursued. And I think some path will become available to you. And I guess the final thing would be that we should not be frustrated because there is yet a lot to be done, and only when we are fully deserving of it. So this is what is called Ishvara Anugraha. It's not something that I can do it on my own. When I am ready, then Ishvara will bless me. But for me to be ready, my part of the bargain has to be to continue to make more and more effort. But please rely on Ishvara's Anugraha, on his blessings, to identify where you have to make some adjustments. Yeah, something like that. Very good. See you. Wonderful to see you all. And we hopefully will see you next week. Om.